The border war. Here's the truth. The best game of the weekend, without a shadow of a doubt. I know everybody wants to say it's Florida versus South Florida, and I get it.
No, that wasn't that game.
The best game that happened in week 2 was the border war between Beau Pribula and Jalen Daniels, and you can't convince me otherwise. That was a hell of a game.
I would just like to say that Baylor SMU was close. Okay.
Yes, which, by the way, shout out Dave Aranda. Funny.
Hell of a win.
Play a team that's actually going to go above 500 in the regular season that SMU doesn't win it. Isn't that interesting?
Well, anyway. We're not here to fuel your opinions. This Missouri game was freaking fun to watch. I bet on Missouri on FanDuel, and I was more than happy that it ended up hitting. Missouri recovered from a 21-6 deficit. Offensively, I am really bought into this Missouri squad. I can't totally say the same thing defensively because their secondary had a lot of issues, which I'm sure we'll get to. But, dude, they look so different from a year ago. They look like this really hard-nosed unit. And Beau Pribula is better than I think anybody thought he was going to be. Everybody thought Beau Pribula, the Wildcat quarterback at Penn State, was going to come in. Then he was just going to run the ball, and we're going to do a lot of read option stuff, and maybe he'd go over 200 yards passing, 250 if he has a good game. He was fantastic. He was decisive. The ball was coming out quick, and he was another guy who was willing to take shots and to take chances. The aggressiveness stood out to me. And I think that Pribula being able to build off of a performance like that gives him confidence. It sucks Sam Horn went down, but now that you're fully committed to one player, this is how this offense meets its true potential. But him, Roberts, and Hardy builds out a really dangerous trio. Blake, did you know that Hardy, of the 112 yards that he had on the ground, 103 of those were after contact.
Yes.
That dude is impossible to tackle. I need more people in the college football world to get themselves learned on Ahmad Hardy. That kid will run through your chest and take your soul.
Hold on now.
What?
Roberts will too.
Well, but this is my point, though, is that we've got the core of an identity that is going to do some damage. And we talked about this in the preview. Even if this team has deficiencies, Blake, they have such a favorable schedule. They have the most favorable schedule in the SEC. Getting to the playoff is very realistic for them.
Joe, I'm not going to go that far yet. Okay, but
fine.
I think that Drinkwitz and company are the most elite staff in the country at one thing. Every time they go in the portal and get backs, they hit massively. Look at any year. They go and get 1 or 2 backs from the portal, and they massively hit. Joe, if I would have told you between Beau Pribula and Drew Allar this week, stay with me. If I would have read this stat line out to you, 30 of 39 for 334 and 3 touchdowns. Penn State played FIU. You'd probably think, oh, well, Drew Allar had a day. No. The like you said, the quote-unquote mobile quarterback, Beau Pribula, went off. And Joe, quite frankly, he was making some throws in bread baskets. Perfectly placed throws. Them being down early felt like they got punched in the gut until Beau Pribula took a massive hit after a run, and then they were off to the races. The thing that I look at the most, and we'll talk about this Mizzou team a lot, Joe, is how Beau Pribula was able to sit in the pocket and deliver dimes. That's the thing to me that I was like, oh, well, man, here they come. They're on a comeback. And every time that there was a big play, it just felt like that Beau Pribula was making a massive throw. Now, he was able to get a lot of complimentary from his run game. Got to give that Missouri offensive line a lot of credit. Joe, they absolutely whipped Kansas up front. in the second half. But I just felt like walking into this, I didn't know to expect this level of performance from Beau Pribula and how he ran the football the way that he did. I mean, throw the football the way that he did. But, man, what an absolutely awesome display. And, by the way, they held Kansas to 3 rushing yards. 3 rushing yards. The number one thing that everybody knew coming into the game was that Kansas with Jalen Daniels in this offense is going to want to establish the run. Joe, they had 19 carries for 3 yards. Now, 25 of that comes on the fumble that went for a safety, and I get that. But they had 10 carries for Jalen Daniels that went for 17 yards, and Heshaw had 11 yards, and Williams had none. Joe, they had 3 rushing yards. The time of possession in this game for Missouri was 40-20. Jalen Daniels and them scoring the 21 early points was great. Joe, they got absolutely dominated after the first quarter. Absolutely dominated. You had a 42-point run by Missouri. They whipped their ass for 3 quarters. If I would have told you, Joe, going into this game that Lance Leipold would have a team with 3 rushing yards, what would you have told me on Friday? You would have
crazy.
You would have told me I'm crazy. Bruh. 3. I know their secondary gave up some big plays and Jalen Daniels did some things. Fine. But, Joe, they just dominated for 3 quarters. They took an early punch, but Beau Pribula rallied this team and they were able to take the lead.
The one thing that ultimately for me, Blake, and they didn't give up a ton of yards through the air. They gave up, I believe, damn it, I had it in front of me. They didn't go over giving up 300 yards. But the way that they gave up a number of big plays that extended drives is what made this game so high scoring, and it's what made this deficit so big. Now, they made one of the most important plays that they needed to with the interception that they had on Kansas's final drive to close it out. That to me was significant. But to give up some of those big splash plays through the air, I do have concerns about the Missouri secondary when they're challenged by teams that have more dynamic receiving cores. I don't know their schedule off the top of my head, but I think that they're definitely going to get challenged more than what we saw from Kansas. Kansas quality team, man. Kansas is going to go out there, fight. They're going to have playmakers. They have juice. But there's going to come a time where they're going to have to deal with a team that's got a more dangerous receiving unit.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, they took 2 really big punches in the first quarter, right? Well, really 3, if we want to be honest. Mm-hmm. You had the 2 touchdowns, and then you had the fumble return touchdown for Kansas, right? I get what you're saying there. I'm not as worried as you at the current moment. I still want to see them. I just think their front 7 dominated, to be honest with you, after the first quarter. I just think that it's the opposite it's the extreme version of what we were just talking about with Ole Miss. You got punched in the mouth in the first quarter, but Joe, you got a 12-play drive, you got a 17-play drive. I mean, you got the interception, you got the 10-play drive to end it, you got the long Roberts touchdown. I mean, you physically wore them down. And ultimately, depth won you this football game in a massive rivalry game. But, man, they looked really good on offense. They were really clean. And anytime that you can run the football on a really quality opponent, it's a good thing.
Having the ability to run the rock, I think, is where this team becomes dangerous. And the bigger part here is the offensive balance. Is they started off like a complete and utter mess, complete mess for what we just talked about there. The opening series to go down in that 20-6 hole that they were in was compounded mistake after compounded mistake. But to trust their identity and then to be able to rally to the point where they had big rushing plays, they had big passing plays, they had big conversions on 3rd down, 4th down, whatever they needed, they were able to convert.
Didn't get
4 of 5 on 4th down, by the way, which is one of the most insane things that can be said in a game.
Drink's got nuts. Pause.
Dude, seriously.
He does. He's got nuts.
that balance is, I think, going to really show up for them in important games later on in their schedule.
I want to point this out, too, for Missouri. It felt like, too, that Pribula and Kevin Coleman had a real connection, too.
Yeah, yep.
Kevin Coleman had a massive day, man. So did Norfleet, but massive connection. Anything you want to draw from before we get out of here, anything you want to draw from the Kansas side of things?
I mean, I said this going into the game, Blake. I didn't think that, and I even said this after week 0. I don't think Kansas is as much of a threat as they used to be. I don't think that they have the bodies on either line of scrimmage to be much of a threat. They don't scare me. I think Leipold has a fun and explosive team that is well coached. They only had 2 penalties in this game. They only had the 1 interception after they were pressing, then they were down by multiple scores. But the most that this team is probably going to be in the future is 8-4. That's it.
I thought that. Well, I didn't really think that I was going to see a Beau Pribula throw the way that he did from the pocket.
No, I didn't expect it either. And that's why I think I'm the most impressed, and why I think that this team is going to be more dangerous, because he wasn't supposed to be able to do that. He wasn't.
Joe,
nobody saw him throw it. Nobody saw him throw it at Penn State. He barely threw the ball.
I got to be honest. It's an upgrade at quarterback from Missouri.
I the way that he believe it.
Well, yeah. I'm not trying to make fun of Brady Cook. I'm just saying, the way that he can move, he showed some athletic display too. So,
yeah.
All right.